Thanks, all of us.
Yes, it's a privilege to have the opportunity to be giving this presentation or this lightning talk here at IGF. And at my side, I have my colleague Morten, and I have Silje on the far right here. And we are honored to also share the stage with Carla from Rappler. She's head of strategy and innovation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and later on you'll be hearing them diving into how to counter mis and disinformation. My name is Olav. I'm the news editor of Faktisk, which is Norway's only fact-checking organization. We are now 15 employees, and we are parted into two divisions. One is a journalism or the newsroom that is making articles on fact checks and verification, and the other part is the media literacy department, TANK or Think in English, who is making educational material out of the same sort of like material we are using for the fact checks. We're gonna address, as I said, disinformation. But first, I have to take you into where we're from, where Faktisk is from, and how collaboration is a vital part of our history. We were founded in 2017, just after the tornado called fake news. It was after the start of the Russian aggression against Ukraine. It was after Brexit and after the first Trump election. So it was a great need for finding a way to counter all of this mis and disinformation being spread online. And in Norway, the solution was that the big media companies got together and found a way to do this together, making an own independent organization called Faktisk and starting up there. And as you can see, we were founded by and are still owned by the 6 big companies in Norway. There are 2 big papers, VG and Dagbladet, which is now owned by Schibsted and Aller, and we have the 2 broadcasters, which is NRK and TV 2. And we have 2 big media companies behind us that owns a lot of regional and local papers. That is A-media and Polaris. So where are we now? What we want to do, I think, how to say, the core mission that we've always been into is to curate knowledge and share know-how and stay relevant. And how do we do it? Yeah, we are fact-checking and we are doing verifications. And we are also looking into the incidents when AI becomes a digital threat. And with that, we do fact-checking, verification, publish it online. We have social media, and we have a TikTok account and newsletter. And at our best, we do this quick. We can make an article, a fact-check, verification, and at the same time, our media literacy division, they make this into educational material that can be very useful for the teacher the next day in the classroom. This is when we are at our best. Then we do the debunking and pre-bunking all together. So how do we do this with very limited resources? We are only 15 people, so we need a little help from our friends. And with the friends, we have, like the big media ecosystem in Norway. And as I said, we are owned by the 6 big companies, so that means that not all of the media industry, but a large part of it are behind us and giving us support and backing. In addition to financing, we share ideas and we share know-how, and sometimes we visit them, they visit us, we can work together, and in this way we can be stronger together. And at the same time, they are making most of our distribution because it's possible for them to republish our articles, and in that way we get much more visibility. We get a big audience through our owners and through the rest of the Norwegian media. So this is how collaboration is so important, and we join our forces. Then a small organization like ours can still strengthen the methods and skills in this very important issue of our time. Just a few words on the development during these years. At the start, it was almost only fact-checking we did, and it was a lot of claims from the politicians. We're still doing that. And at that time, like 8 years ago, there was a lot of viral misinformation we also looked into. I mean, like there was a lot of strange and funny web pages which had to be looked upon. There was a big change in 2020 because of the pandemics. Then almost all of our sources went into that and fact-checking all the claims related to the debates on vaccine and what the authorities were to be doing. Afterwards, we had the Russian full-scale in Ukraine, and after that again, it was an energy crisis, and this occupied us, all of our strength almost. This was what we were doing. But the big change, I think, in the way we prioritize our journalism would be like the invasion in Ukraine, because what we saw, there was a flood of images and videos, and the big medias, they didn't know what videos and images that occurred on social media that were to be trusted. So we have to find a method and a way to verify all these images and videos. And the way we did it, or the Norwegian media did it, we set together an own verification desk, which was facilitated and administered by Faktisk, and it was staffed by journalists from all through Norway. So journalists that otherwise were like from competing newspapers, they got together, found new methods, found new skills, and at the same time they answered to this assignment on providing verified images and videos for the TV stations and the papers. And the third thing we made possible then was give education to all the journalists in how to develop this field, and they could bring that back to the organization they belong to otherwise. So a lot of things happening, and Silje will later on tell you a bit more about that part. At the end, I just would like to say that of course, we have a lot of collaboration in Norway, but we also have collaboration outside, across the borders. And we work tight together with our Nordic colleagues, the Danish Kjekte, the Swedish Källkritikkbyrån, and the Finnish Faktabari. And all of those, and we in Faktisk, we also take part in a Nordic hub of fact-checking organization, together with academic institutions and a tech company, which is called Nordis, where also new ideas and methods are being developed. And we're also part of an international network, IFCN, which is like 180 fact-checking organization, and the European fact-checking standards network. So in that sense, we share the ideas, and we share the methods, and we share the tools. And so that is my bottom line. We're better together.
Thanks. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we actually get better by being together with other partners. I'm Morten. I'm the head of technology at Faktisk. So as Olav mentioned, back in 2017, we mostly fact-checked claim from politicians, and at that time, our tech suite looked like this. So this is our original toolbox. It's transcriptions from public broadcasting with some entity recognition, so we could see what people were talking about when they were on the radio or on TV shows, and picking up on the claims that they made, so we could fact-check them. We also looked a bit into polling, so we had our own poll aggregator service. I'm not going to talk that much about that now. But as times have changed quite significantly since 2017, and the ability of bad actors to create misinformation has become much more technologically sophisticated, and we've also seen that people consume much more audio-visual content online rather than text-based content. So back in 2017, we mainly worried about Facebook, which is a text-based platform, but now we have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have YouTube, you have all these platforms where people mostly share video, and sometimes long-form video too. So we need to update our toolbox, and we've done that in collaboration with our academic partners and our tech partners. So I'm going to give you a couple of brief examples, and then Silje will maybe tell you something more about how this actually works in practice. So the first example is this. So as you can see, these are Norwegian flags with boxes around them. The boxes are, it's an object recognition algorithm that's called YOLO. It means you only look once. We used this is a test case, so we tried to see how many non-Norwegian flags there were in the National Day Parade in Oslo. Every year there is a debate in Norway about how many foreign flags there are in this parade, and the assumption seems to be that there is definitely some significant amount of them. So we used this object detection technology to actually look at the flags and try to verify if there were any foreign ones. And the answer was a very clear no. This was a myth. But we had to run through several hours of parade footage with this algorithm to actually get to this answer, something that would have been completely impossible just a few years ago. I think we counted around 80,000 flags, or flag instances, to be very technical about it. Because the same flag can appear multiple times in the same video. We've also gone through TikTok videos. This one, I'm not sure if you cannot see. So this one here, we used facial expression recognition because we wanted to see what the mood is like on Norwegian TikTok. So the box here actually looks at someone's face, and it tries to estimate what emotion their facial expression signifies. So here, I'm not sure if it detects anything, but you can see it was actually quite instructive because we discovered that, one, people don't really share a lot of substantial content on TikTok, and most people are happy. So that was pretty much contrary to our expectations. Here's the algorithm if you want to try it. It's called FER. It's open source, so you can use it. I'm going to skip the next one because I can see that we are running a bit out of time. I'm going to advertise. We also have a freedom of information platform that the journalists can use to get access to public records, or at least records that should be in public, through submitting FOIA requests to all sorts of municipalities, state organizations, and so on. I think there is at least 30 million documents in there, so it's quite large. But that's sort of the overarching technology stuff. I think it's much more interesting for you to hear about how it's used for verification work. So Silja.
Thank you. My name is Silja. I'm the head of verification at Faktisk. And as Olav was saying earlier, this is a project organized under Faktisk that we started in the spring of 2022. And as you see from this image, this was posted by the former Prime Minister in Sweden, Carl Bildt. He shared this image on his Twitter account on the 26th of February in 2022. So this was 2 days after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And he wrote, "There are photos that will be with us for a long time." And he was indeed right about that. When this image was verified, it turned out to be 6 years old, so it did not show 2 children and soldiers up against Russian soldiers in the full-scale invasion. And this exemplifies what the media and the society as well were up against, because traditional reporting tools were not enough anymore. And social media was flowing the frontline footage, and some of it was authentic and some of it was manipulated. So, and with restricted access on the ground for journalists, newsrooms, they relied increasingly on user-generated content for their news coverage. So the newsroom, they lacked the skills and the methods to verify content, and it became very urgent for everyone to be able to separate facts from fabrications. So, competing national media in Norway, we got together and we established a method and a work process on how to try to separate facts from fabrications. And 3 years later, we now we use it as it's a big part of our journalism to use verification, and we've trained a lot of Norwegian journalists. About 60 Norwegian journalists have been part of our newsroom and got training in it, and we also trained journalists all over the world, many of them living in exiles. So we've been training them, journalists from Gaza, Yemen, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan, many corners of the world. So let's give an example of how we work when we verify content, mainly videos and images. This video that you see screenshots of on the screen, this was a video that surfaced on Russian Telegram channels, and it was claiming to show a Norwegian soldier, being killed in Ukraine, and he was wearing a Norwegian uniform. And the footage, it seemed authentic, and it seemed to have been shot with a GoPro camera, showing a Russian soldier throwing a grenade into a bunker where the Norwegian soldier was hit. And the video, it was spread with allegations of NATO's involvement in the war in Ukraine, and a dead Norwegian soldiers that fed the Russian narrative of NATO's involvement in the war. But something was clearly off, And verifying the video and analyzing it frame by frame, we could map and see how sun and shades revealed inconsistencies and editing cuts, and we could document that the video, it was staged, and it did not, in fact, show a capture a Russian grenade killing a Norwegian soldier at all. It was clearly propaganda and disinformation. So this is an example of how of the work we do. This other example, this is from the early part of the war in Ukraine. At the beginning, it had been rumors that there had been established a filtering camp outside of Mariupol, the Russian-controlled Ukrainian city. And we wanted to look into it and see if we could find some kind of evidence to support these rumors and stories that we heard. So we examined satellite images from the area, and at the start of the war, we could not see any of the tents that were meant to be put up, but after a few months, we could clearly see, using the satellite images and comparing them, we could see that there had been put up about 20 blue tents. So by this, we use satellite images and open source intelligence to turn rumors into documented facts. And this other example is from Syria, where we also have used satellite images to document signs of mass graves, several places in Syria, after the fall of the regime of Bashar al-Assad in December last year. And these satellite images, they documented how large trenches appeared around the time that thousands of Syrian people had been reported missing. So through satellite data, we could monitor the grave expansion and compare timelines and add facts to the reports from civilians on the ground. So at Factis, we, of course, work to debunk misinformation and manipulated content from conflict areas around the world. And during the India-Pakistan conflict this spring, several videos emerged online, and they were claiming to show Pakistan shooting down Indian fighter jets. And our analysis, they showed that clips, they were manipulated, and they were from a military-themed video game, in fact. And we tracked the source material, compared visual frame by frame, and identified that none of the footage had actually any real-world connection. This case, it shows how visual content, whether it was intentioned or not, can be misused and provoke an escalation between nuclear powers. So, increasingly, our work is about exposing manipulation, and we investigate content created by AI and video game simulations, as you saw, and also real images such as this, but connected with the false claims. And this example is from a famous image just a few weeks back, where it was claimed that the French president was accused of cocaine use after simply clearing away a napkin before a photo shoot on a train to Kiev. So stories such as this, they spread extremely fast, and verifying content can be time-consuming. So this is our main dilemma and challenge at the moment, and this is why we're focusing on developing technical tools, such as the one Morten was telling you about with object detection with the Norwegian flags. These technical tools and methods are necessary for us to keep improving and develop in order to make verification faster and even more accurate. So this is, as I see it, is the main challenge that we're up against at the moment. And it needs, of course, to be a global and joint force to tackle this, I believe. So I will let Carla take over now.
Thank you, Celia. I'm Carla. I'm from Rappler, a newsroom in the Philippines. And as we saw from everything that's been presented, disinformation is real and it's happening here and now. And our goal really in tackling this is what do we do now and how do we continue the battle for truth and start it in a scale that matters to us all, right? So first off, what is the cost of disinformation? So it's been reported that disinformation actually is costing us globally $78 billion every single year because of market manipulation, reputation risk, cybercrime, and everything that disinformation touches. It is designed to divide communities, distort reality, and ultimately destroy trust. And the social cost for this is really immeasurable. The fact that we no longer have a shared reality is what we're living through. And of course, the new entrant, a big entrant in accelerating everything, including disinformation, is AI. Now, the barrier to entry is very low, low cost, high scale in terms of production, producing, distributing in a pace that we've never seen before. And this is what we're battling with in Rappler. So as mentioned, we're a Philippine independent newsroom headed and led by the courageous Maria Ressa, who's right there. And we've seen firsthand how disinformation has been weaponized to attack journalists, manipulate propaganda, and definitely destroy democracies. And ultimately, our question was, how do we make sure that we tackle disinformation or build resilience in a world where lies move faster than the truth? So we've seen that this is not limited to just one tool, one newsroom, or even one solution, but it is meant to be a collective system that brings together the best of data, the most effective communities, and the right and impactful technology. So let's start with data. It really is taking a look at how we fight back with it, because ultimately, you can't fight what you can't see, right? So we are able to build out a data forensics company called Nerve, where we expose different networks and ultimately how does this information travel across platforms, across networks, pages, bots, accounts. Because disinformation doesn't just appear randomly, it is very much orchestrated. So what you're seeing here in the slide is actually our visual map of how one disinformation or crisis flows through the information ecosystem or platforms, right? Whether it's Facebook, TikTok, social media. And what you're seeing on the left is how the tendency is that for a piece of information to connect with various communities online, splinters into niche communities, so you would then be connected or be attracted to certain narratives, and then that's what you tend to spread. So our ability to then map out where do the facts lie, where are the lies starting, and how do these lies spread, allow us to then connect to the networks who would have most influence to stop that same spread. So being able to then visualize this in a map is very important, because ultimately, the goal is to provide that kind of information and facts to a set of communities that are ready to act. So through MovePH and RapLearn, we've been able to build out an effective network of civic engagers through various training, roadshows, and here's a quick sample of what that looks like, where we bring together multilateral, multi-sectoral groups from youth leaders, local government units, and making sure that this information is a common enemy that we all need to be able to focus and fix.
Bakit mas dumadami siya? And a big part of the problem, a contributing factor, is technology.
If internet or if technology is being used for criminal ends, there must be cooperation from platforms, telcos. And I really appreciate yung ganitong mga forums, because this will enable communities to be cyber safe. So doon po tayo sa educating on how to deal with the internet.
If we really want to keep the discourse alive, we also need to keep a conversation with your local government leaders. Yeah.
So all this engagement has then allowed us to really collectively grow a movement within the Philippines. It's called Facts First PH. This was started last 2022. And what makes it different and really powerful is that it is multi-sectoral and everybody gets involved. So it's over 140 units, and it is very difficult to bring together people, right? But the fact that we are battling through a common concern or crisis is what brings us together. So it's not just about banding together, but making sure there's a system where everybody gets to report, verify, check, and spread a piece of fake news or piece of disinformation, and that's all then collected. So why is this important? Because in this coalition, we then are able to piece together a network of truth tellers that then allows us to match where do the lies spread with where the facts should be placed. So here you're seeing a network map of various Facts First partner communities and how that then ripples out into the respective networks as well. So if lies spread a certain way, then we're able to combat that by knowing where do they start, how are our audiences, our communities responding to it, and what formats will they actually understand. So this way, we're not just spreading like, here's a piece of news, this is fake, this is real, but in a language that they understand, in formats that they would actually bother to watch. So it's knowing our communities, knowing what matters to them, and ultimately knowing how to engage with them better. And as we know, systems, broken systems at that, cannot be fixed overnight, so we built our own. Because the goal is to be able to reclaim the narrative from those that are spreading this information. So what you're seeing here is Rappler communities powered by the Matrix protocol. It is a safe space where everyone can actually jump in, join in, and have real connections direct with our journalists and editors, those who are also guardians of facts and truth. And how it works is beyond just your typical news feed, you can actually then select which communities you want to be able to engage with online, chat, real time, always on, and then get to even chat with our AI called RAI that is trained on vetted articles and vetted facts from Rappler through content and data. And this is how, if you're visiting Rappler, you can then connect with RAI, ask it the questions, verify yourself if there's any disinformation or lie that you come across, and it'll provide you the response that is then connected to factual hard data. So it's facts-based, it's designed for civic engagement, it's designed for you to be able to also spread the truth yourself to your respective communities. So ultimately, for us to be able to really address the issue of disinformation, it's a long, hard road ahead, but we've seen that what has worked for us in Rappler is that really seeing how do we build out a network of truth by understanding what the data shows, equipping citizens and communities to act with information that's readily available, and also providing safe spaces for good, not just for profit. So it's been a long journey, but we're here to continue to battle for truth. Thank you.
Thank you. So, questions?
I'm not sure if there is a...
Is there a mic, perhaps?
Here's a mic.
Oh, it seems to be working now, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, thanks for the presentations. Really interesting work. I'm Surabi from R&W Media. We are a media development organization based in the Netherlands. I was just wondering about the tools that you mentioned, for instance, the facial recognition tool and some of the other AI tools that you're using. How are you reconciling that with the ethical implications of using these tools in your work? Have there been discussions within the organization about the ethical, responsible implications of these tools? And I'm just interested in knowing how are you navigating some of those discussions, and if you have any practical insights on that. Thanks.
Oh, definitely. So we did have those discussions when we had this TikTok project, and one of the most important things for us was selecting only accounts that had a big public impact already. So we didn't want to store facial expression information about normal private citizens. We selected only the most important influencers who have their face plastered everywhere anyway. We also didn't publish, I think, almost none of the material anywhere else. As journalists, of course, we have the luxury of having an exemption from the GDPR, which means that we can store personal information as long as it's for editorial purposes. But we've tried to be as careful as possible, especially both with people's faces, but also with comments. That's something else that we've stored and analyzed. And we've always tried to disaggregate the names of the people making the comments from the comment itself, because people can really expose their names, for example. So yeah, it's usually on a per project basis. We would have other considerations if we were looking into more, let's say, random activity from non-public figures, for example.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I assume that the data that you showed about this information source is usually publicly observable, websites that actually will be visible by anyone. Now, I'm wondering if you also have a project to deal with the more hidden form of disinformation, especially the one that goes by way of personal targeting and delivery by way of ephemeral websites. So these websites will not be visible to anybody who knows what to do about it. And you will not be able to observe what it is. Of course, there could be ways to collaborate with the networks to enable people to kind of report what they see, but it would actually take a bigger project. So I wonder if there's anything going there.
Yeah, so all of our work is based on publicly available data, and what we've observed is that they really do work in patterns. So while we're able to map out various accounts and networks, it's important to note that every account plays a role. And an account will then have their own respective private connections, right? And so if you're, if you're able to then identify what is happening in the public space, what are the messages that are building up in certain clusters, right? Understanding who would be the main influences or leaders or accounts in specific clusters, we can then connect that to potential private behavior as well. Because whatever you deal with publicly also would have an influence on how you spread it privately. So we take a look at patterns, we take a look at how the behavior is, as well as essentially the playbook of how messages spread. Then we are able to then track that out within private spaces as well.
It seems that we have run out of time, so I think we could just take the question over here, okay? Thank you for attention. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.